The night shift at Seoul Space Command was usually quiet. Daewon sat at his station, watching the screens that showed incoming signals from across the galaxy. Most nights, nothing interesting happened. Ships reported their positions. Colonies sent routine messages. Everything was normal and boring. Tonight felt different. At 3:47 a.m., a weak signal appeared on his screen. Daewon leaned forward, adjusting the controls to make it clearer. The signal was breaking apart, like someone trying to speak through static. He put on his headphones and listened carefully. What he heard made his blood run cold. Under attack. They came without, not prepared, slaughter. The voice was human. It was afraid. Then the signal died. Daewon's hands shook as he recorded everything and sent it up the chain of command. Within 20 minutes, Admiral Tae-min arrived at the command center. The admiral was a tall man with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. He listened to the recording 3 times without speaking. "Where did this come from?" Tae-min asked. "New Busan colony, sir. Kepler 442b system. Outer Rim." The admiral's jaw tightened. "Get me Jiwoo. Now." Jiwoo arrived within the hour. She was the best xenolinguistics expert Earth had, someone who could decode alien languages and broken transmissions. She was small and wore thick glasses, but her mind was sharper than any knife. She took the recording and went to work immediately. For 6 hours, Jiwoo worked on the signal. She used every tool she had to clean it up and fill in the missing parts. When she finally looked up, her face was pale. "Admiral, you need to hear this." They gathered in a private room. Jiwoo played the reconstructed message. This time, they could hear more words. "This is New Busan Colony. We are under attack by unknown ships. They hit our defenses first. Our weapons did nothing. They are landing now. They are taking people. They are killing anyone who fights. Please send help. Please. They are inside the main dome. Oh God, they are taking the children. Please, someone answer. We need..." The message ended with screaming. Tae-min closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them again, they were hard as stone. "Contact the Galactic Coalition. Send them this recording. We need support for a rescue mission." But the Coalition's response came back quickly, and it was not what they hoped for. "New Busan Colony is located outside protected zones. Coalition forces cannot respond. Advise evacuation of remaining Outer Rim colonies. This matter is closed." Daewon could not believe what he was reading. "Sir, they are just going to ignore this? Our people are dying out there." Tae-min did not answer right away. He walked to the window and looked out at the stars. Finally, he spoke. "Pull every report we have on colony incidents in the last year. Every missing ship. Every unexplained silence. I want everything." What they found was worse than anyone imagined. 4 human colonies had gone silent in the past 6 months. Each time, Earth had asked the Coalition for help. Each time, the Coalition said it was outside their jurisdiction, or probably just equipment failure. They had been covering something up. Jiwoo dug deeper into alien databases. She found references to a species called the Velketh Swarm. They were raiders and slavers who attacked younger civilizations. The Coalition knew about them. In fact, the Coalition had signed treaties with them decades ago. The Outer Rim colonies were sacrifices. The Coalition let the Velketh take what they wanted, as long as they stayed away from the core worlds. "We are being fed to them," Jiwoo said quietly. "The Coalition is letting them kill us to keep the peace." Tae-min read the reports with growing anger. He had served in Earth's military for 40 years. He had fought in wars. He had lost friends. But he had never felt rage like this. The Coalition, the same organization that welcomed humanity to the galaxy, was letting humans die to protect their own comfort. He made his decision. "Get me Captain Hyun-woo," Tae-min ordered, "and prepare the 3rd Defense Fleet for immediate departure." "Sir," Daewon said carefully, "Earth Command has not authorized a rescue mission. The Coalition says..." "I do not care what the Coalition says," Taemin interrupted. His voice was calm but filled with steel. Our people sent a distress call. We will answer it. That is what we do. Within 12 hours, the fleet was ready. 6 warships prepared to leave Earth orbit. The Indomitable Will was the largest, a battlecruiser that carried 3,000 crew members. Captain Hyun Woo commanded it. He was younger than Taemin, but just as determined. When the admiral explained the mission, Hyun Woo did not hesitate. "When do we leave?" was all he asked. But before they could depart, Earth Command contacted them. The message was clear. Do not go. The coalition was threatening sanctions against Earth. If the fleet went to New Busan, humanity could be expelled from the galactic community. Trade would stop. Technology sharing would end. Earth would be alone. Taemin called a meeting with all the ship captains. They gathered on a video call, each face appearing on the screen. The admiral did not waste words. You have heard what Earth Command said. If we go, there will be consequences. The coalition will punish us. Earth might suffer, but our people are dying on New Busan. They called for help and no one answered except us. I am going. Any ship that wants to return to Earth can do so now. I will not order you to follow me on this. Silence filled the call for a moment. Then Captain Hyun Woo spoke. My crew votes to go. One by one, every captain said the same thing. Not a single ship turned back. Taemin felt something in his chest, pride maybe, or just the knowledge that he was not alone in this anger. Then we leave in 1 hour. Set course for New Busan. Maximum speed. As the fleet left Earth's orbit, Daewon watched them go from his station at Seoul Space Command. He was the one who caught the signal. He was the one who started all of this. Now he could only wait and hope. In the command chair of the Indomitable Will, Admiral Taemin looked at the stars ahead. Somewhere out there, humans were suffering. They were calling for help, and help was finally coming. But he knew they might already be too late. The Indomitable Will cut through space at maximum speed. Around it, 5 other warships kept formation. Inside the battlecruiser, 3,000 people worked without rest. Everyone knew what they were flying toward. Sun-hee stood in the medical bay, checking supplies for the 100th time. She was the chief medical officer, and she had a job to do. But her hands kept shaking. Her sister lived on New Busan. Her sister's husband and 2 children were there too. Every time Sun-hee closed her eyes, she saw their faces. Dr. Sun-hee, you need to rest, one of her nurses said gently. I will rest when we get there, Sun-hee replied. She did not look up from her work. On the bridge, Captain Hyun-woo studied the tactical displays. He was running combat drills every 6 hours. The crew was exhausted, but he would not stop. They had to be ready for anything. Hyun-woo had fought in the Luna insurrection 10 years ago. He knew what happened when soldiers were not prepared. Captain, we are picking up another transmission, the communications officer reported. Hyun-woo walked over quickly. From New Busan? No, sir. It is from a Threxian colony 3 systems away. They are also reporting an attack. Jiwoo was called to the bridge. She listened to the new transmission and her face went pale. It is the same attackers. They are using the same methods. Hit the defenses first, then land and take prisoners. How many colonies? Admiral Taemin asked. He had come to the bridge when he heard the news. Jiwoo pulled up a map. Red dots appeared on the screen, each one representing an attacked colony. There were dozens of them. Human colonies, Threxian colonies, Novari outposts, species that humanity barely knew existed, all of them on the outer rim, all of them abandoned by the coalition. This has been happening for years, Jiwoo said quietly. The Velketh have been raiding for decades. The coalition knows. They have always known. Taemin stared at the map. Each red dot was thousands of lives, families, children, all of them treated like they did not matter. His hands formed fists at his sides. How much longer until we reach New Busan? He asked. 10 days, sir, Hyunwoo answered. Make it 8. I do not care if we burn out the engines. Down in engineering, young Mi got the new orders and cursed. She was the chief engineer, and she knew what the admiral was asking for. The engines were already running hot. Pushing them harder could cause permanent damage, but she understood why. She had friends on New Busan, too. You heard the admiral, Youngmi told her team. Reroute power from non-essential systems. Give everything to the engines. We are getting there fast or we are not getting there at all. The days passed slowly. The crew worked and waited. Dong Hyun, the Marine commander, drilled his soldiers constantly. They practiced boarding actions and building clearances. They trained for fighting in damaged structures and rescuing civilians under fire. Dong Hyun was a big man with scars from old battles. He did not talk much, but his Marines would follow him into hell if he asked. Remember, Dong Hyun told them during one training session, we are not going there to fight a war. We are going there to save people. That is the mission. Protect the civilians first, kill the enemy second. On the 8th day, they arrived at the Kepler 442b system. What they found there made everyone go silent. New Busan had been built inside 3 large dome structures on the planet's surface. From orbit, the domes were supposed to shine with lights from the city inside. Now, 2 of the domes were shattered. Great holes had been torn in their sides. The 3rd dome was dark. No lights, no power. Life signs? Hyunwoo asked quietly. The sensor officer worked his controls, detecting approximately 3,000 life signs, all in the underground sections. 3,000. The colony had 15,000 people. Sunhee felt her legs go weak. She grabbed the edge of a console to steady herself. Bring us into orbit, Taemin ordered. Launch the scout drones. I want to know what happened down there. The drones descended to the planet and sent back images. The domes were ruins. Buildings had been destroyed. Bodies lay in the streets. And the drones did not get close enough to identify them. But they could see the damage. Whatever attacked here had been thorough. No enemy ships in the system, the tactical officer reported. They are gone. They got what they came for and left, Jiwoo said. She was staring at the images on the screen. They took the survivors. Dong Hyun was already preparing his Marines. We are going down there. Those 3,000 people need us. The dropships launched within the hour. Dong Hyun led the first wave himself. As they descended through the atmosphere, he could see the destruction more clearly. The colony had tried to fight. There were burn marks from weapons fire, crashed defense vehicles. But it had not been enough. The dropships landed near the main dome. Marines poured out, weapons ready. But there was no enemy to fight. Just silence and ruins. Spread out, Dong Hyun commanded. Find the survivors, be careful. There might be traps. They found the entrance to the underground bunkers an hour later. The doors had been sealed from the inside. Dong Hyun knocked on the heavy metal. This is the Earth Defense Force. We are here to help. Open the door. Nothing happened for a long moment. Then, slowly, the door opened. A thin man with a burned face looked out at them. He stared at Dong Hyun like he could not believe what he was seeing. You came, the man whispered. You actually came. Behind him, more faces appeared in the darkness. Men, women, and children who had been hiding underground for 8 days. They were dirty and scared. Many were injured, but they were alive. Sunhee came down with the second wave of dropships. She ran to the survivors, already pulling out medical supplies. She looked at every face, searching. Then she saw her sister. Hae-won was sitting against a wall, holding her 2 children. Her husband was next to her, his arm in a makeshift sling. When Hae-won saw Sunhee, she started crying. Sunhee ran to her and pulled her into a hug. I knew you would come, Hae-won sobbed. I told the children you would come. But even in that moment of relief, Sunhee could see the truth in her sister's eyes. Something terrible had happened here. Something that would never be forgotten. On the Indomitable Will, Admiral Taman received the reports from the surface. 3,000 survivors, 12,000 dead or missing. The missing had been taken, loaded onto ships and carried away. Jiwoo found something in the wreckage, security footage from the attack. She brought it to Taemin and Hyunwoo. They watched in silence. The Velketh ships had arrived without warning. They fired on the defense platforms first, destroying them in seconds. Then they landed. The creatures that came out were tall and covered in armor. They moved fast and killed efficiently. But they did not kill everyone. They specifically captured civilians, dragging them to their ships. Men, women, children. It did not matter. They took them all. "Where did they take them?" Hyunwoo asked quietly. "I do not know yet," Jiwoo said, "but I will find out." Taemin watched the footage again. He saw a Velketh soldier grab a child and throw them into a transport. He saw civilians trying to run and being shot down. He saw everything. "Find them," he told Jiwoo. His voice was cold and hard. "Find where they took our people. We are going to get them back." The survivors were brought aboard the fleet's ships. Sun-hee and her medical team worked without stopping. Some injuries were simple to treat. Broken bones, burns, cuts, but other injuries were worse. Biological weapons had been used during the attack. Some survivors were sick with infections that Sun-hee had never seen before. "We need Coalition medical data on Velketh bioweapons," Sun-hee told Admiral Taemin. "I cannot treat this without knowing what it is." "The Coalition will not help us," Taemin replied. "We are on our own." But Jiwoo had an idea. She hacked into the Coalition databases using codes she was not supposed to have. It took her 6 hours, but she found what they needed. Medical files on Velketh weapons, treatment protocols, everything the Coalition had been hiding. "They had the cure all along," Jiwoo said angrily. "They could have saved thousands of people on other colonies, but they kept it secret." Sun-hee took the data and began treating the survivors. Slowly, the sick ones began to recover. But she knew that 12,000 others would never recover. They were either dead or taken as slaves. On the 3rd day after their arrival, Dong-hyun brought someone to see the admiral. It was a woman named Eunji. She had been a teacher at the colony school. She was thin and her eyes looked empty, but she wanted to talk. "I saw everything," Eunji said. Her voice was quiet but steady. "I was in the school when they came. We tried to hide the children in the basement. They found us anyway." She told them the whole story. The Velketh had arrived with clear purpose. They knew exactly what they wanted. They killed anyone who could fight back, but they kept the others alive. They had special equipment for capturing people, nets made of energy, drugs that made people unable to resist, transport containers that held dozens of humans at a time. "They were not just attacking," Eunji explained. "They were harvesting, like we were crops to be collected." "How many did they take from the school?" Taemin asked gently. 200 children, 30 teachers. Eunji's hands shook. "I only survived because I hid under the bodies of my colleagues. I heard the Velketh talking. They spoke in their own language, but I recorded it on my tablet." Jiwoo took the tablet and listened to the recording. Her face grew dark as she translated. They were discussing quotas, how many slaves they needed, which age groups were worth the most. They were shopping for merchandise. Hyunwoo had to leave the room. He walked to an empty corridor and punched the wall. His knuckles split and bled, but he did not care. He had a daughter back on Earth. She was the same age as the children taken from that school. Dong-hyun found a different kind of evidence on the planet's surface. His Marines had discovered a Velketh soldier who had been injured during the attack. The creature was still alive, trapped under debris. Dong-hyun ordered it brought to the ship. The Velketh was tall, maybe 7 feet, with 4 arms and armored skin. Even injured, it tried to attack the Marines when they pulled it from the rubble. They had to use stun weapons to keep it under control. It was locked in the brig behind 3 layers of security. Jiwoo went to question it. She had learned the Velketh language from the Coalition databases. The creature looked at her with contempt. "You are the weak ones," it said in its own language. "You do not belong among the stars. You are resources, nothing more." "Where did you take our people?" Jiwoo demanded. The Velketh laughed. It was an ugly sound. "To the processing stations, where all lower species go. They will be broken and sold. Some will become slaves. Some will become food. Some will become worse things. This is your place in the galaxy. Accept it." Jiwoo felt sick, but she kept her face calm. "The Coalition allows this? The Coalition understands reality. The strong take what they want. The weak suffer. This is natural law." The creature leaned forward. "Your species is new and weak. You should feel honored that we find you valuable enough to harvest." That night, Jiwoo gave her report to Admiral Taemin. She included everything the Velketh had said. She also included what she had learned from deeper investigation. The Coalition had made deals with the Velketh centuries ago. In exchange for leaving the core worlds alone, the Velketh could raid the Outer Rim freely. Younger species were sacrifices to maintain peace. "We were sold out before we ever joined," Taemin said quietly. "The moment we settled our first Outer Rim colony, we became products for them to harvest." "It gets worse," Jiwoo continued. "I found records of other species complaining to the Coalition. The Threxians lost 30 colonies. The Novari lost 18. All of them were told the same thing. The Outer Rim is not protected. Accept the loss and move on." Hyunwoo was also in the room. "How many processing stations do they have?" "At least a dozen that we know of. But there is one in the Theta Serpentis system that processes most of the slaves from this region. If our people are still alive, they will be there." "Then that is where we are going," Taemin decided. But someone else wanted to speak. The colony administrator, Jae-sung, had been avoiding everyone since the rescue. He felt guilty for surviving when so many died. But now he came to the Admiral with something important. "I sent 3 distress calls to the Coalition over the past year," Jae-sung said. His voice was filled with shame. "Strange ships kept appearing in our system. They would scan us and leave. I reported it every time. The Coalition told me not to worry. They said they would investigate. They never did." He pulled out communication logs. 3 separate reports sent to Coalition Command. 3 responses saying the matter was being handled. All lies. "They knew we were being targeted," Jae-sung said. "They knew, and they let it happen." There was also a child who wanted to talk. Her name was Bo-Ra, and she was 9 years old. She had not spoken since the attack, but she drew pictures. Dong-hyun had found her in the medical bay, drawing on paper that Sun-hee had given her. The pictures showed the Velketh, but they also showed something else. Numbers written on containers, symbols marked on the slave ships. Bo-Ra had been in one of the containers before she escaped during the chaos. She had seen things that could help them. Jiwoo looked at the drawings and felt her heart race. "These are shipping codes." She memorized the codes on the container she was in. With those codes, Jiwoo could track where the ships went. It took her another full day of hacking and searching, but she found it. The Theta Serpentis processing station. That is where the ships from New Busan had gone. That is where 5,000 humans were being held. But the station was not just holding humans. According to Jiwoo's data, there were over 50,000 beings there from a dozen different species, all of them captured from Outer Rim colonies, all of them waiting to be sold as slaves. Admiral Taemin called a meeting with all his senior officers. He laid out what they knew: the location of the station, its defenses, the Velketh battle group protecting it, the odds. "We are 6 ships," Hyunwoo said slowly. "They have at least 20 warships at that station, plus the station's own weapons. This is a suicide mission." "I know," Taemin replied. "But I am going anyway. Our people are there. I will not leave them." He looked around the room at his officers. Sun-hee, Dong-hyun, Young Mi, Ji Woo. All of them had become more than just colleagues. They had become something like family through this nightmare. I am asking you to follow me into a battle we might not survive, Taemin said honestly. If anyone wants to stay behind, I will understand. No one moved. No one spoke. Then Dong Hyun stood up. My Marines are ready. When do we leave? One by one, every officer in the room agreed to go. They knew the odds. They knew they might die. But they also knew they could not live with themselves if they abandoned those 50,000 people. We leave in 12 hours, Taemin ordered. Young Mi, I need you to work a miracle with our shields. Dong Hyun, prepare your Marines for the fight of their lives. Hyun Woo, start planning our assault. We get one chance at this. We cannot fail. The fleet traveled for 6 days to reach the Theta Serpentis system. During that time, everyone prepared for what was coming. Young Mi worked on a desperate plan to improve their shields. She had stolen experimental technology from a coalition research station they passed. It was illegal, but no one cared anymore about following coalition rules. The theory is simple, Young Mi explained to Admiral Tae-min. Our shields fail because they try to stop energy attacks all at once. This new system absorbs the energy and spreads it across the entire shield grid. We can take more hits before the shields collapse. Will it work? Taemin asked. Young Mai smiled tiredly. I have no idea, but it is better than nothing. She installed the new systems on all 6 ships. Her engineering teams worked 20-hour shifts to get it done in time. When they finished, Young Mi ran the tests. The shields were 40% stronger. It might be enough to keep them alive a little longer. Dong Hyun prepared his Marines in a different way. He gathered all 400 of them in the cargo bay and spoke plainly. We are going to assault a heavily defended station, he said. The enemy outnumbers us. They have better weapons and better armor. Most of you will probably die. He let that sink in. Some of the younger Marines looked scared. The veterans just looked determined. But here is what they do not have, Dong Hyun continued. They do not have a reason to win. They are slavers and murderers. They fight for profit. We fight for our people, for the children taken from New Busan, for the thousands of innocents locked in cages. We fight because we are human, and humans do not abandon their own. The Marines cheered. It was not a happy sound. It was the sound of people accepting death if it meant doing the right thing. Hee-jin was preparing her own forces. She commanded a squadron of 30 fighter pilots. They were some of the best humanity had, but they would be facing odds that terrified even her. The Velketh had hundreds of fighters protecting that station. Our job is to pull their fleet away from the station, Hye-jin told her pilots. We make them chase us. We give the Marines time to get inside. Some of us are not coming back. I need you all to accept that now. One of her youngest pilots, a man named Ki-jun, raised his hand. Commander, what if we all die and the mission fails anyway? Hye-jin looked at him seriously. Then we die knowing we tried. That is more than the coalition did for those people. On the bridge of the Indomitable Will, Captain Hyun-woo planned the attack with his tactical officers. They had scanned the station from long range. It was massive, built into an asteroid for extra protection, dozens of docking bays, heavy weapons covering every approach, and 23 Velketh warships in defensive positions around it. We need to split our forces, Hyun-woo said. 3 ships engage the Velketh fleet and pull them out of position. The other 3 move in fast and deploy the Marines. Who leads the distraction force? One officer asked. I do, Hyun-woo replied. The Indomitable Will take the lead. We have the strongest shields and the most weapons. We can hold their attention. It was a death sentence, and everyone knew it. But Hyun-woo did not care. His job was to protect the Marines and give them time to free the prisoners. If he had to die to do that, so be it. Min Seo was the navigation specialist who had tracked the Velketh fleet here. She had one more job to do. plot the fastest course through the asteroid field surrounding the station. One mistake and a ship could crash, but speed was everything. "I can get us through," Min Seo told Hyun-woo. "But the ships will have to follow my course exactly. No deviation. Even 1 degree off, and we hit rocks." "Then we do not deviate," Hyun-woo said simply. Sang-woo had been working on hacking Velketh communications for days. He finally broke their encryption just before the fleet arrived at Theta Serpentis. What he heard made his blood boil. The Velketh were preparing to move a large shipment of slaves. 50,000 beings would be loaded onto transport ships in 3 days and sent to various buyers across the galaxy. If the human fleet did not attack now, those people would be scattered across 100 worlds. They would never be found. "We are out of time," Sang-woo reported to Tae-min. "It is now or never." Admiral Tae-min stood on the bridge and looked at the tactical display. The Velketh station, the defending fleet, his own 6 small ships. By every logical calculation, this attack should fail. But Tae-min had stopped caring about logic days ago. "All ships, this is Admiral Tae-min," he said over the fleet-wide channel. "In a few hours, we will attack a force much larger than our own. Many of us will die. But 50,000 innocent people will live because of what we do today. Remember that. Remember why we are here. For every person who cried for help and no one answered. For every child taken from their family. For every species the coalition sacrificed to maintain their peace." He paused, then continued with steel in his voice. "We are humanity. We answer the call. We come for our own. And today, we show the galaxy what happens when you touch our people." The fleet moved into the system. Hae-jin's fighters launched first. 30 small ships accelerating toward an enemy fleet 20 times their size. Behind them came the capital ships, spread into their attack formation. The Velketh detected them immediately. Alarms sounded across their fleet. They scrambled their fighters and began moving into defensive positions, but they were not worried. They had superior numbers and firepower. These humans were fools. Hae-jin led her squadron straight toward the center of the Velketh formation. They were moving so fast that the enemy barely had time to react. The human fighters opened fire, targeting the Velketh command ship. Their missiles struck shields and armor, doing little real damage. But that was not the point. The point was to make the Velketh angry. "All fighters, break formation and scatter," Hae-jin ordered. "Make them chase you." The squadron split apart, each fighter going in a different direction. The Velketh fleet moved to pursue just as planned. They left their defensive positions around the station to hunt down these annoying little ships. Now the station was exposed. "Marine transports, go now!" Dong-hyun ordered. 3 transport ships accelerated toward the station, using the asteroid field for cover. Min Seo guided them through the rocks with perfect precision. Behind them, the Indomitable Will and 2 other warships engaged the Velketh fleet head-on. Hyun-woo watched as enemy fire filled the space around his ship. Shields holding at 70%. Return fire. Target their engines. The Indomitable Will's guns blazed. Human weapons were newer than Velketh technology, more precise. Where the Velketh relied on overwhelming firepower, humans used accuracy. Each shot from the Indomitable Will hit exactly where Hyun-woo intended. But there were too many enemies. For every Velketh ship they damaged, 2 more moved in to attack. The human fleet was being surrounded. Young Mi's shield modifications were working, but barely. The Indomitable Will was taking hit after hit. "Shields at 40%, she reported from engineering. "We cannot take much more." "We do not need much more," Hyun-woo replied. "We just need 5 more minutes. The Marines are almost at the station." Those 5 minutes felt like an eternity. Human fighters were being shot down. Ki-jun's fighter exploded in a ball of fire. 3 more pilots died in the next minute. But they kept fighting, kept running, kept pulling the Velketh fleet further from the station. The marine transports reached the station's docking bay, but the doors were sealed. Dong-hyun made a quick decision. "Sang-woo, can you open those doors?" Sang-woo was already working on it. His fingers flew across his keyboard as he tried to hack the station's systems. "Almost there. Just need another minute." They did not have a minute. Velketh fighters had noticed the transports and were turning to attack. Rounds from their guns sparked off the transport's hulls. Then the docking bay doors opened. "Go, go, go!" Dong-hyun shouted. The transports dove into the docking bay. They crashed more than landed, but everyone survived. The rear hatches opened and 400 Marines poured out, weapons ready. The fighting inside the station began immediately. The inside of the Velketh station was hell. Dong-hyun led his Marines through corridors filled with enemy soldiers. The Velketh were larger and stronger than humans, but humans had something more important: rage. Every Marine knew what this place was: a processing center where beings were treated like cargo, where children were separated from their families, where hope went to die. They fought with a fury that surprised even the Velketh. "First squad, secure this corridor. Second squad, find the prisoner cells," Dong-hyun ordered while firing his rifle at approaching enemies. The Velketh soldiers fell, their armor not enough to stop human weapons at close range. The Marines moved deeper into the station. They fought room by room, corridor by corridor. The Velketh had numbers, but the humans had training and determination. Every Marine was willing to die to complete this mission. Sun-hee came with the second wave of transports. She was not a soldier, but she had a job to do. As soon as the Marines secured an area, she moved in with her medical team. They set up aid stations right there in the middle of the battle. "We are going to start bringing prisoners through here," Dong-hyun told her. "Get ready for anything." Sun-hee nodded. She had already seen the worst at New Busan. Whatever they found here could not be worse. She was wrong. The first prisoner cells were opened an hour into the assault. Inside, humans and aliens were crammed together in cages barely large enough to stand. Many were sick. Some had been tortured. Children cried for their parents who were in different cells or already dead. One Marine opened a cell and found himself staring at a small human girl. She was covered in dirt and bruises. When she saw the Marine, she just stared at him like she could not believe he was real. "It is okay," the Marine said gently. "We are here to take you home." The girl started crying. Then she ran to him and held on like she would never let go. This scene repeated throughout the station. As each cell was opened, prisoners stumbled out into freedom. Many were too weak to walk. The Marines carried them. No one was left behind. But the fighting was getting worse. The Velketh realized what was happening and began sending more soldiers to stop the humans. Dong-hyun's forces were being pushed back in some areas. "We need reinforcements," one squad leader called over the radio. "No reinforcements are coming," Dong-hyun replied. "Hold your position. We are not leaving until every prisoner is free." Outside the station, the space battle was going badly for the humans. The indomitable will had taken severe damage. Fires burned on multiple decks. Half the weapons were offline. Young Mai was working frantically in engineering to keep the ship together. "Shields are gone," she reported to Captain Hyun-woo. "We are taking direct hits to the hull. We cannot survive much longer." Hyun-woo looked at his tactical display. The Marine still needed time, more time than his ship had left. He made his decision. "All remaining crew, evacuate to the secondary ships," he ordered. "Get to the escape pods. That is an order." "Captain, what are you doing?" Young Mai demanded. "Buying time," Hyun-woo said simply. He turned to his helm officer. "Set collision course for that Velketh dreadnought. Maximum speed." The officer understood immediately. "Sir, you will die." "We all die eventually," Hyun-woo replied. "Today my death will mean something. Now evacuate. Go." Most of the crew made it to the escape pods. Young Mi stayed until the last moment, Then Hyun-woo physically threw her into a pod and sealed the door. He went back to the bridge alone. The indomitable will accelerated directly toward the largest Velketh warship. The enemy tried to change course, but they were too slow. The human battlecruiser crashed into the dreadnought at full speed. The explosion was visible from the planet's surface. Both ships were destroyed instantly. Captain Hyun-woo died, but he took 4,000 Velketh with him, and he bought the Marines another 30 minutes. Ye-jin saw the explosion from her fighter. She had lost 23 of her 30 pilots. Her own fighter was damaged and limping, but she kept fighting. "Commander, we need to retreat," one of her surviving pilots said. "Not yet," Ye-jin replied. "The Marines are still inside." Inside the station, Dong-hyun's forces had reached the main holding area. It was a massive room filled with cages stacked to the ceiling. Thousands of beings were trapped here. Humans, Threxians, Novari, species Dong-hyun had never seen before. All of them slaves waiting to be sold. "Open every cell," Dong-hyun ordered. "Everyone gets out." His Marines used cutting tools and explosives to tear open the cages. Prisoners poured out, confused and scared. Many could not believe they were being rescued. Sang-woo hacked into the station's systems again. This time, he broadcast a message in multiple languages. "All prisoners, we are here to rescue you. Follow the human soldiers. They will take you to safety." But freedom had a price. The Velketh were now sending everything they had to stop the escape. The fighting became desperate. Marines were running out of ammunition. Some started using Velketh weapons taken from dead enemies. A Marine named Woo Jin was hit by enemy fire while protecting a group of children. He went down, and a Velketh soldier moved in to finish him. But something unexpected happened. A Threxian prisoner grabbed a piece of metal pipe and smashed it into the Velketh's head. The creature fell. More prisoners joined the fight. They armed themselves with anything they could find and began attacking their former captors. The slave uprising spread through the station like wildfire. Beings who had been prisoners for months or years finally had a chance to fight back. They were not soldiers, but they were angry, and anger can be a powerful weapon. Sun-hee worked non-stop, treating the wounded. Both human Marines and freed prisoners came through her aid station. She saw injuries that would give her nightmares for the rest of her life, but she kept working. "Doctor, you need to rest," one of her nurses said. "I will rest when everyone is safe," Sun-hee replied. It was the same thing she had said on the ship. She meant it just as much now. Among the freed prisoners, Sun-hee found a small boy. He was maybe 5 years old, covered in bruises. He would not tell her his name or what species he was. He just held on to her coat and would not let go. "It is okay," Sun-hee told him softly. "You are safe now. I promise." The boy looked up at her with big eyes. "Promise?" "Promise." Dong-hyun reached the station's command center. Inside, he found the Velketh overseer who ran this facility. The creature was trying to execute prisoners as a last act of spite. Dong-hyun stopped him with a single shot. "For every child you hurt," Dong-hyun said quietly to the dying overseer. "For every family you destroyed, this is what you deserve." With the command center captured, Sang-woo could access everything. He found shipping records, buyer lists, financial transactions, evidence of centuries of slave trading. He downloaded it all. "This information will destroy the coalition's credibility," Sang-woo said. "We can prove they knew about all of this." "Good," Dong-hyun replied. "The galaxy needs to know the truth." The last Velketh soldiers on the station were being overwhelmed by the combined force of Marines and freed prisoners. The battle was almost over. Almost. "All Marines begin evacuation," Dong-hyun ordered. "Get the prisoners to the transport ships. We are leaving." But there were too many people and not enough ships. The 3 transports could not carry everyone. Admiral Tae-min solved that problem. "We are taking the Velketh transport ships," he ordered. "Sang-woo, can you pilot them?" "I can try," Sang-woo replied. The prisoners were loaded onto every available ship. human transports, captured Velketh vessels, even small escape pods. 45,000 beings were rescued that day, not all 50,000. Some had died before the rescue, but 45,000 would go home. As the last transport left the station, Dong-hyun set demolition charges. The station would be destroyed. No one would ever be processed here again. The fleet limped away from Theta Serpentis. They had lost the indomitable will. 14 fighters from He-Jin Squadron, 237 Marines, and Captain Hyun-woo, who gave his life to save thousands. But they had won. In the medical bay, Sun Hee finally allowed herself to rest. The small boy she had promised safety to was sleeping next to her, holding her hand. She looked at him and thought about all the others they had saved. Admiral Taemin stood on the bridge of the flagship and looked at the rescued prisoners filling his ships. Beings from a dozen different species, all of them alive because humans had refused to look away. He opened a communication channel. Not to Earth Command, not to the Coalition, to everyone. "This is Admiral Taemin of the Earth Defense Force," he began. "We have just liberated a Velketh processing station. We recovered 45,000 prisoners who were going to be sold as slaves. We have evidence that the Galactic Coalition has known about this for centuries and did nothing." He paused, letting that sink in across the galaxy. "To any species suffering under the Velketh or any other predator, send us your location. Humanity will answer. We do not abandon our own, and we will not abandon you." His message was heard across 1,000 worlds.